Well, welcome in everybody to episode 4 of the AL Recruiting Podcast. We've got a great show lined up for you today. I'm going to be breaking down the Albertville and Grissom game. I got an interview with Albertville head coach Chip English. And then I'll be talking about some sleepers in the state of Alabama that you need to know about. But first, as we start every show, we have our Bigger Than Football segment. And joining me today is Gary Lloyd. And Gary is an author. He's a writer. He covers sports. And so we have connected on Twitter, but we've never seen each other face to face until today. So Gary, glad to have you today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's nice to meet you today. So it's been cool getting to know you a little bit.
Right. Well, the one thing, as we started this Bigger Than Football segment, and I've started to think about, what did we want to do for this week? And Gary, you're going to have to tell the story, but a few years ago, you started posting a picture that usually followed a high school football game, and it would be players kneeling or praying, our teams together, and you would post a picture and it would just put sports on it. And this is something that you've just consistently done. And it seemed to this year, people started to take notice of it. And I've seen people post on Twitter, as Gary Lloyd would say, sports. Tell us about the idea of taking this picture, where it all started, and where that kind of came from.
Yeah, so for me, I think it actually kind of goes all the way back to when I was in college at the University of Alabama. I had an internship covering Alabama athletics back then, mostly football, mostly recruiting. And at the time, I just kind of knew that it kind of needled at me, bothered me a little bit that every recruiting writer that I followed at the time, they kind of wrote the same things as their competitors. It was all about 40-yard dash times, height, weight, official visits, offers, stuff like that. And I just wanted it to be a little bit different, and my coverage to be a little bit different. And I had a professor at the time, Rick Bragg. He's actually a national best-selling author. But I had a sports magazine writing class with him, and he taught me about weaving sports and life together to romanticize the games, drama, imagination, imagery. So I think it was for me for like the sports photos. I think maybe it was near the end of 2018. I took one of those photos, just a post-game huddle, teammates joining hands, and they bow their heads, they pray. And so usually at that time of when a game ends, parents, students, fans, they're kind of filtering out of the stadium, heading to the car, trying to beat traffic, get home. And at that time, I'm always on the field. I'm waiting for the coach to get done so I can interview him. I'm trying to, grab the quarterback or the linebacker or whoever I want to talk to for my post-game story. And I thought, well, I'm just standing here. I'm doing nothing. I'll just take this photo and post it on Twitter, So I just started it like that. And yeah, the word just sports. And I think for me, it's just sports, especially at the high school level. It's so much more than that final score. It's so much more than the scholarship offer, the touchdowns and the highlight tapes. For me, it's so much more about, those lifelong friendships, those life lessons, that kind of thing. So that's, in a nutshell, that's kind of where it started and why I do it.
Yeah, I think, obviously this segment is bigger than football. And I think it's one of those things, man, you hit on it, is that there's nothing like the kind of the unity of high school sports. And especially when you put that now the NIL stuff is now in the collegiate level, these kids are making money. And really, it's kind of like high school sports is kind of the last, especially high school football, it's the last moment of being an amateur in football, at least.
That's right. I mean, it's the game in its purest form.
Right. And that's what makes it special. And I think that's why the picture is so special, is because, I've heard somebody say this, and, I don't think this will offend anybody in the military, but, high school sports is as close to the unity you'll get with like a band of brothers in the military. That's kind of like the next step down, is being a teammate on a high school sports team.
Right.
So you kind of start in 2018, teams huddling together, praying together. And a lot of times it's opposing teams coming together. But what's your favorite of all the ones you've posted on Twitter, what's been your favorite sports moment so far?
Oh man, they like it's hard to that's tough. It's hard to pick because many of them are kind of that same scene.
Hmm.
It is the post game huddle, whether it be one team or both teams kind of intermingling. Post game prayer led by one of the head coaches or both of the head coaches. In terms of the best photo, now I'm not a photographer. I'm pulling up my iPhone and I'm just pointing and clicking, but a few years ago, it might have been first round of the playoffs. I was at Briarwood Christian, and I remember the game was on November 8th, 2019. So Briarwood came onto the field, every player holding an American flag.
Hmm.
And before they do the run through, so this was pregame, not postgame, I saw a few players kneeling in the end zone, praying together before the game, holding those American flags. And I thought, just how cool is that? You get the spiritual part of it, the faith part of it, sure, but then you've also got that patriotism part of it too.
Hmm.
And I just thought that was so cool. And they're taking it upon themselves to do that. No parent is coming in there saying y'all need to do this. No coach with them. They took it upon themselves. And I think things like that can be rare these days, especially with 15, 16, 17 year olds.
Hmm.
So that's the best photo, the one that stands out to me just from an imagery standpoint. Uh, Other ones that stand out, Vestavia had a quarterback a few years ago, Eli Sawyer. I covered a game of theirs at Huffman, and I think his was pregame, and he was out on the field by himself, just kneeled down, helmet by his knee, and he was just taking a moment to himself before the game. Got one very similar to that this year. Briarwood again at Spain Park. Their quarterback Christopher Vizina doing the same thing. An in-game one, former, I forget where he went. Maybe he went to Scottsboro, but Chris Bell, that was the
Hmm.
head coach at Oak Mountain. I've gotten him a number of times where if a kid messes up, maybe he throws a pick, maybe he misses an assignment, he comes over to the sideline and Bell just puts his arm around him and they just talk. I've gotten that a couple of times with Coach Bell, and I just love that because you can't necessarily see it from the stands, especially post game. Got fans are leaving, but in the game, you don't see that from the stands. You don't necessarily see it if it's a game on TV or something like that. And I'm standing right there, and I'm trying to give you, even if it is a fuzzy iPhone photo, I'm trying to
Hmm.
give you just a little bit more than the surface level. Here's how the game went, and I really hope I hope people are seeing it, and I hope they take just that one word sports as it's more than just the game. That game kind of transcends what happens on the field.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of that leads into like, what do you hope people take away? Is that from posting those is that this is bigger than sports. Those relationships are bigger than sports, that coaches have with the kids, that the students have with each other. I mean, those things carry on for life, and often, yeah, you remember those big wins and losses. I mean, the ones that hurt and the ones that feel great. But ultimately, the thing you remember is the relationships you build with your teammates and with your coaches. And I think that's kind of what that picture shows in essence.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it just shows that sports are just a vehicle, especially at the high school level. I mean,
Hmm.
you've kind of said it. I think about that Briarwood photo, for instance, where the guys have the flags and they're kneeled down. I mean, let's say one of those guys is a running back and one of those guys is the right tackle. I don't think years from now they're going to say, "Hey, you remember that game against Marbury where you sealed the edge and I broke free for a 20-yard run." I I don't necessarily think they're going to remember that. I think they're going to remember kneeling together with those flags and having that friendship, that faith kind of moment. And I hope that I hope that's what people take from it. That we get so caught up in the game these days, wins and losses, and the stats, and trying to get our highlights out there, and coaches from the college level to come in. But I hope people see that high school sports, football, all the sports, it's still the purest form of sports that we have, I think. And I'm just trying to shed a little bit of light on that, and I hope some people are taking note of it, and maybe it makes them think a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we said initially. Like, we wanted this show to be a little bit different, where we don't just talk about the games, we talk more about players. But and that's the vehicle that gets people to listen. But we still kind of, at the beginning of every show, we just want to take a deep breath and kind of have a sports moment, right? Like, say, here's some things that are bigger than football. It's bigger than recruiting. And that's kind of what we want to do. The kind of the first 8 to 10 minutes that you're listening, you get a moment outside of worrying about, hey, what the college coaches are listening and looking for, and all that kind of stuff. And so, I think that I appreciate those moments. I appreciate just kind of being aware and taking that moment in for those kids. But
For sure.
and like you said, I don't think people are going to forget that. Now you're kind of known for that, because now there's discussions every week going on about the picture that somebody else posts, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's starting to take off just a little bit, and I'm really appreciative that it is. I would have weeks where, covering a game, I've got a lot to remember on Friday nights, keeping up with stats, and then the interviews, and, meeting deadline and that kind of thing. I know back 2018, 2019, I might miss a week or two where I'm like, dang, I forgot to take one of those. And I feel like now I can't forget to take one of those. Like, it's become an expectation, and I'm grateful for that expectation, because it does seem like it's speaking to some people, and that they're appreciative of it. So I'm going to keep doing that as long as I can.
Yeah, pressure's a privilege, Gary.
Pressure is a privilege. That's right.
Yeah. Right. Well, look, man, I can't let it go. You've got a great shirt on, all right, and I know you're a big Braves fan. So
yeah.
Braves are Braves are going to have another year like '95. Is that what it says?
There you go.
Okay, there we go. And so that's hey, I have. My dad's a huge Braves baseball fan. I mean, we grew up on TBS every night just about, and so he'll be happy. He'll be thrilled to see that. I'm just kind of limited myself to football and kind of casually watch baseball now. So,
well, it might save you a lot of heartache if you were to pull for the Braves. So you're probably doing the right thing. But sometime in the near future, they gotta hoist that trophy again. I'm ready.
I'll let you guys that are Braves fans live vicariously through that hope. So we'll just go for that.
That sounds good.
Well, who do you got this week? Don't you have Briarwood and Moody? Isn't that who you?
I've got Briarwood and Mortimer Jordan this Friday.
Mortimer Jordan. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. I know a lot of those coaches over there at Mortimer Jordan. I've covered them through the years. A lot of them have been at Clay Chalkville and Thompson and some other schools in there. So looking forward to heading to Lions Pride Stadium and seeing what sports photo I can get this Friday night.
Well, we'll be looking forward to it on Twitter and watching for it this week, man. But I hope you get a good game to go watch and just continue to do what you do. And I'm sure at some point you'll have an idea about a sports book and tell some of those stories, and they'll be good for us to read. But man, I appreciate you being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, David. It's been a blast.
Well, guys, stay tuned as I break down the Albertville and Grissom game. And then I also have Albertville head coach Chip English joining me on the show as well. So don't miss those next two segments coming up. But thank you so much for joining with us today as we get ready to talk about the game I was at last week. Well, welcome back to the show. Hopefully you tuned into our Bigger Than Football segment with Gary Lloyd. If not, go back and watch that. It's a wonderful, wonderful segment with him. Great interview. But this week, or last week, I was able to get out and watch Albertville and Grissom. And it was hosted at Milton Frank Stadium. And, I think the thing I love about what I get to do is all the wonderful people that we get to meet each and every week. Coach Dutton and his staff and the people at Grissom were hospitable and welcoming. I just want to say thank you to them. Thank you to the people at Albertville. It's just an awesome thing to see how many great people are in this business. I even had an encounter with somebody from the media on the sideline last week that I'm going to have on the show at some point in our Bigger Than Football segment. So it was just a great night, great atmosphere for a game. But I'm going to be talking about just the Grissom players, and Coach Chip English is going to be on the show to help me talk about the Albertville players. But often when we do go to a game, I want to say this. A lot of times some players may not do something in that game. So we just kind of highlight, and I just highlight whoever it is that I see that night. And so, kind of just to start with, when you look at the players on Grissom, starting on the offensive side of the ball, one guy that just really stood out to me, even in warm-ups, just watching him, RJ Johnson. He's a 2023 wide receiver. He's 6'4", 205 pounds. I know that he is an excellent basketball player. He's a highly rated basketball player. But man, he's a mismatch problem for defenses because they put him on the outside and he's bigger than pretty much every corner that I've seen, especially in high school. And so, he had a huge touchdown catch in the game. I mean, he's just a big, physical, tall guy that I think could be a mismatch problem. Now, he probably won't play on the outside at the collegiate level if he stays with football, but he is a guy that could play tight end and be one of those really good pass catching tight ends that cause mismatch problems for linebackers and corners that try to come over and play against them. And so, interesting player. I think he would be somebody to look at. He could be a dual sport athlete. I know he is in high school already. Another wide receiver for Grissom that really stood out, they put him at running back some, but is a 2023 wide receiver, Tariq Thaxton. Tariq was, he was kind of a change of pace guy from the other running back that we're about to talk about, but Tariq also played wide receiver, but he was explosive with the ball in his hands. He made plays, made people miss. He's a guy that I think that, could really do a lot with more film this year and next year. I think they have to get a better they have to get somebody that can distribute them the ball a little more to kind of help them out to get more film. But those two guys, Tariq Thaxton and RJ Johnson, are two junior wide receivers that I think could be really effective for the Tigers going forward and could be effective at the collegiate level with the right development. Mark Howard, he's a senior this year, 2022 running back, just a big guy. I think he's like a 5'11", 6 foot, 210-pound guy. And he is a physical running back. I wrote an article for Prep Red Zone Alabama, and I just said, look, it's refreshing in a day and age where everything is about spreading people out and creating mismatches with defenses. Mark Howard's just a guy that's like, give me the ball. I don't care how big the gap is. I'm going to run through it, and I'm going to hit somebody when I run through it. Man, I mean, there were just so many hard hits that were generated by Mark Howard the other night. It was wonderful to watch, really. And so I thought he was a really, really big physical running back. If you're looking for a back like that as a college team, if that's what you need, Mark's a guy you could look at that could really help you out. On the defensive side of the ball for Grissom, there were some guys that really stood out. Also, Jackson Boffenkamp. He's a defensive end linebacker. He's 6'1", 220 pounds. He's a senior this year. But I thought he made a lot of good plays. He was one of the guys that, was pretty disruptive, always in the backfield. I mean, it seemed like he was in on every punt. He was about to block every punt. So he played special teams, but he was just a guy that could really rush, get in the backfield, be disruptive. I thought their linebacker, Martin McDonald. He's 2023 linebacker. He's 6 foot, 195 pounds. Man, he just had a great game. I think he had an interception in the game. He was just in on tackle after tackle after tackle. And Albertville played very physical too. And so him, being that linebacker position every time, just having to step up and hit somebody. He was just an impressive young man to watch play as well. Caleb Hunt, he's a senior cornerback. He had a huge pick six in the game, which was at the time in the second quarter. It was, Grissom was kind of down. They weren't able to get the ball movement. They weren't getting points on the board. And Caleb's pick six, it was like probably a 93, 94 yard pick six too. So it was a huge pick six, big momentum swing, big play for Grissom at that time. And man, he showed his speed on that pick six. So I was impressed with watching him play. Ball skills, all of that kind of was on display at that time. I saw him make some big tackles during the game. And so Caleb was another guy I came away impressed with. Really, I mean, Grissom has a great defensive line. I mean, you look at Dietrich Jones. He was another guy that, he's a big time player, big physical player. He's 6'1", 290 pounds. I know he has an offer from like UT Martin. He played great. He's a senior. Jalen Edwards was a guy that I really wanted to get to watch. He hurt his knee in the game. And, I reached out to Jalen and said, hey, look, man, I hope your knee's getting better. But man, he looked good. And I would just say this, if you're a college coach, kind of listening to this podcast, kind of looking ahead, he's a 2024 defensive end. He's 6'3", 210 pounds. He looks good. He was one of the guys that, I kind of perked up in warmups watching them, and I saw him and I was like, hey, Jalen Edwards is a guy I think that's going to be really good in the next few years, somebody to really watch for their team. Like I said, he got hurt. I think he hurt his meniscus in the game. He's having all the tests done, but we reached out to him and said, hey, look, man, we're praying for you. Hopefully everything's getting a little bit better. But Katie Long was another guy on their defensive line. I mean, they just have dudes that can play on that defensive line and that front for them. And so, I just think that, again, as I've said, after going to some 7A games, if you're a recruiter, you can't go wrong coming to the Huntsville area and recruiting these 7A teams. You can't go wrong just taking a trip, a mini trip or a mini road trip and visiting, Albertville, going to all the schools, Grissom, Huntsville, Bob Jones, James Clemens, and even going over to Florence. I mean, just kind of going through this area and recruiting those teams. Go to Buckhorn, check their team out. They're just going to be guys on those teams, and that will be time well spent for you. And so, and look, even though Grissom lost the game, that doesn't matter to me as much. I mean, I know it matters to the players. I know it matters to the coaches, wins and losses do. But for me, it's about getting out to the game, seeing players that can play at the next level, regardless of their scheme, regardless of wins and losses. And so I thought Grissom had a lot of players that can play for a lot of different levels. And so you need to be out there and watch them. Again, thank you to Coach Dutton, everyone at Grissom for letting me come out. I wish them nothing but success this year. Stay tuned. We have an interview with Coach Chip English from Albertville High School. He's the head coach there, and he helps me break down his team in this game. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the AL Recruiting Podcast. We are so glad to be joined today by the head coach of the Albertville Aggies, and that is Coach Chip English. Coach, thanks so much for joining with us. We were able to get out to watch your game against Grissom, a bit of a homecoming for you. Talk about kind of leaving Grissom and taking over to Abbeville, and Albertville, and how's that first year been?
No, it's been great so far. I came in January, and was able to kind of hit the ground running a little bit. And there was a lot of turnover here at the school at Albertville, and we got a new strength coach. So that was a process of getting used to. I'm used to running the weight room or having somebody that's kind of been with me running the weight room. So having a new guy, Kai Wynn, coming in from the college ranks, very, very beneficial from having that knowledge of his time at Auburn, at Texas, at Millsap, where he was the head strength coach there. So, a lot of knowledge coming in. I'm trying to tie in my high school knowledge and how that connects. So we're working together, and we had a really good off season of getting to know the kids, developing them, and then obviously looking towards the future. I think it could even be better moving forward. So it's been good. The kids are working hard. Their attitude and effort is great, and that's what you want as a new coach. You want them to be willing and able to do what you ask them to do, and they've done that so far. So, a lot of development that has to happen moving forward, but we're putting a lot of young kids on the field, which sometimes can have some growing pains in itself, but, the future looks bright for Albertville football. And, going back to the game on Friday, it was a homecoming, and, a lot of emotions were there just because everybody on this other sideline. So I felt for those guys. They played extremely hard. It was a great game, and thankfully we came out on top.
Yeah, it was a physical game. I just feel like even, I talked about him in my last segment. You guys had a running back that was physical. Mark Howard from Grissom, he was physical. And I think Caleb Kent, I believe, is your running back.
Gant, yeah.
Or Gant. Yeah, man. I mean, both of those guys just ran the ball really, really hard, finished runs. And yeah. I just felt like that was kind of, a game where it was just going to be physical throughout the whole game.
It was. And, Mark Howard, he did it for us last year in many games. I think he had a 200-yard or 180-yard rushing game against Bob Jones last year for Grissom that ended up winning us the game over there. And so, we knew going in it was going to kind of be really physical, up front. Line play was going to be crucial. Dedrick Jones, the nose guard for Grissom, I mean, he's a D1 player, and he already has several offers. And I think UT Martin, he's real close to looking at them and committing to them. But we knew it was going to be a battle. And Caleb Gant, he didn't start the year for us. Starting running back, Hodges and Laura Saint got hurt, who really had some really good games against Sparkman and Florence. So Caleb had to come in and kind of do the job. And, moving forward, we're going to have a kind of a running back by committee, to try to get some different elements to the defense. But, give credit to Grissom. Like I said, they're up front guys with Dedrick Jones and Kenny Long. Those are really, really good football players that are going to play at the next level. And give credit to our guys for kind of controlling that at times. And ultimately, you talk about the physicality. At the end of the game, we got in our Rhino package and was able to kind of finish the game, which is the epitome of the physicality of it. So I was really proud of our guys for able to kind of getting downhill and running downhill. And Isaac Henderson was actually he dotted the I for us in that Rhino package. And he's a junior linebacker. That's a college player. But at times, you know what I mean? You trust the people that you trust. And we brought him over, and he ended up busting a 33-yard touchdown run.
Right. Well, and I'll talk about them because I got your linebackers highlighted. Those guys, they were physical too. And, but if I'm not mistaken, this was Albertville's first 7A win as a program. Is that correct? Or as a 7A program?
Last year they were 2-8. They beat Boaz, and then they had a forfeit against Huntsville. Huntsville forfeited. So, that wasn't really on the field win. So, this was our first 7A win, which is huge for the school. People can say what they want, but moving up a classification takes some adjusting. And obviously the 7A ranks, it's small college ball, if not big college ball at some places. So it's just one of those things where getting the kids acclimated to the speed of the game, the size of the game. And so coming out with a win, it was huge.
Yeah. And, I think that one thing I will say just from this perspective of 7A is that, Albertville, if you haven't been to a game at Albertville and seen the facilities y'all have and the stadium and the atmosphere around the game, if you're just a fan of high school football, you need to go watch a game at Albertville. It's an incredible place, incredible facilities. Probably one of the top stadiums in the state of Alabama to go watch a ball game.
Yeah, no doubt. It is a really neat place to play. You know, when we came down last year when I was coaching at Grissom, you know, our kids walked in and I mean they were the wide-eyed, like, wow, this is really a really cool stadium. And I would put it in the top 5 stadiums in the state. And you know, our administration, whether it be Dr. English or superintendent, you know, our principal, Mr. Phillips, you know, those guys know that football is the front porch of your school. And we're going to provide every resource possible for our kids to be successful, grow, and ultimately play at the next level if they wish and desire to.
Right. Well, man, you know, we do a little different angle on this show. You know, we love to talk about the game, but also our angles, we kind of talk more about players. And we know we have colleges tune in to this podcast and listen to coaches talk about their players or me talk about players. But it's always better from the coach's mouth. And I just want to give you the platform to kind of highlight some guys that some coaches should be looking at, talking about, and should be coming to watch at your program.
Yeah, you know, first I'll talk about some of the seniors. You know, we have 2 playmakers on the outside, Javinci Dorival and Elijah Moss. Those guys, we heavily depend on them. Elijah plays both sides of the ball. Javinci's a 6'1", you know, guard that plays basketball. So I know colleges like that. They like to see that mobility and stuff. And he can go up and get a ball. He has breakaway speed. He plays the ball well in the air. And there's no doubt he can play on the next level. And then Elijah, you know, he didn't start out on defense for us at the beginning of the year. Had some situations happen where we plugged him in at safety. And I think he's been our leading tackler or close to it as far as secondary goes these last 3 weeks. So he's a playmaker. He has several touchdowns on the receiving side. He had a big pick against Grissom last week. So those 2 guys, as far as our skill guys, they're no-brainers. And I would say they're a D1 AA, D2 classification. I'm very brutally honest with coaches, and I think they appreciate that at the college level. I'm not going to try to sell a D3 player to a D1. And right. So I think that's important when I do have a D1 kid and I say I have one, then they believe me. So those guys are tweeners between that D1 AA and D2 ball. And then we have a big defensive end, AJ Hannon, and he's transformed his body. He's a 6'5", 235-pound defensive end who can move really well. I project him as potentially an Ivy League guy. He played offensive line last year. He's transformed his body. Like I said, he's a slimmer kid. He's lost about 35 pounds, and now he's gaining weight and doing it the right way. Mm-hmm. And so very high ACT academic kid. I could very easily see him in an academic type environment, you know, in the Ivy League. And I think he can develop, obviously, with his frame being what it is. You know, a lot of things can happen with a kid like that. So I'm excited to kind of see the future and how that holds. And he's learning every day. You know, he played offensive line last year. He's never played defensive end. And so each and every game, we're seeing big strides with him and really rangy, long-armed kid. And then, you know, you bump down, or one of our linebackers, Tristan Golden, number 15. He's a 6 foot, 225-pound linebacker who is everything you want. I mean, he brings the boom. He sees it well. He runs extremely well. And I can see him playing at the next level. But really our highlighted guy defensively for us right now is Isaac Henderson. He's a 6'1", 205-pound back who's arguably our fastest kid on defense, not only just playing but literally timed. And he's a college guy. He's only a junior, so he's still, you know, he'll probably graduate at like 6'2", probably 225, 230. He loves the weight room. He loves the grind, and I can project him going at a D1 or D1 AA level with that. So, and then we have some sophomores that really, you know, we're starting a sophomore quarterback, and he threw his first 2 picks Friday night of the whole entire year. Right. And we've played some D1 DBs, including Florence's guy who has offers from everywhere, you know, Sparkman and so forth. So, but he plays extremely well, extremely big. You know, he's 6'2", 195-pound, 15-year-old. That can throw it. He was a starting right fielder for the baseball team as a freshman, and I think he hit 340. So he's just an all-around great athlete, and the sky's the limit for him. So really kind of excited to see him develop. Outside linebacker, Xavier Havis. He's a 6'2", 185-pound outside linebacker that runs extremely well. He could probably be our starting running back, probably be our starting wide receiver if we ask him to. He's that athletic.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has it in him and I project him as like a group of 5 and even a power 5 kid. He's going to be that big. So just because of his athleticism, he's extremely long, and he plays really, really fast. So he's probably the highest projected kid that I have on my team right now. If I had to, if I was being honest, really the sky's the limit. He plays extremely fast, extremely athletic kid.
Wow. Well, man, even with Ty Snyder, your quarterback throwing the pick, I even think just one of those was just a miscommunication. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it didn't seem like it wasn't a bad throw. I think it was just a miscommunication with his receiver or something on that pick 6.
Yeah, and Andy Howard, that's his name, but it was, and I called a bad play on that. I called an RPO. They rolled down in man coverage, which they shown on film, and I decided to be greedy and try something, and it was an outcut, and the receivers didn't necessarily have the right spacing, and it was just a bad altogether. But miscommunication on my part more so than Andy's. But that hurt. That cost us. Going into the game, that would have put us up 21-0, and now it's 14-6, and we're battling. So.
And they had momentum after that. That was a big play for them. They were down after that, and that was a big play. But I think it's a credit to your kids to be in an away game, throw a pick 6. They get the momentum, but you guys still came away with a win. I mean, that's an easy time to just kind of let them take back over the game.
Well, and that's what I try to tell the kids. It's like, guys, when adversity happens, and like, listen, we're not Thompson right now. You know what I mean? We can't have bad things happen and still ride the high. We're just not that caliber of team. So we got to limit our mistakes. Our margin of error is very small. So when we do make mistakes, how do we handle that adversity? And typically, evenly matched team like us and Grissom, right? Whoever handles that adversity is going to be better. And that's where you see, Andy throws 2 picks right there in the first half, back to back. All right, and then he comes out the last drive of the half, and he puts a bomb 45 yards into the end zone and takes one on the chin while he's doing it. That to me tells me that he is a player. After having 2 bad series, he comes back and he drives the team down the field, puts one in the end zone, and that leadership is emerging on our team. And I don't think they had that in the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. But like right now, I'm seeing that not only out of the seniors, but out of the juniors and Isaac Henderson, and out of the sophomores and Andy Howard. So really excited to see that.
Yeah, that was an incredible throw. I mean, just the way he dropped that right in there. And then, and that was the one thing I even wanted just to say is that, your linebackers led by Isaac Henderson, they're some of the most physical linebackers I've watched all year. And I've watched a lot of teams, but man, they play physical. And that to me just defines what you guys are doing as a coaching staff.
Well, I tell you, it starts with their position coach and Pat Callahan, and then our defense coordinator Josh Reeves. I kind of call them the Bash Brothers. They have the eye black, they have the cowboy collar.
Yep.
They really have that mentality of not only are we going to play extremely fast, but we're going to play extremely physical, and they take that into every practice and every game, and it shows in the productivity that they have. I mean, Isaac. He's averaging, between 10 and 15 tackles a game. And because he plays so fast, and Tristan is right there, not quite as many tackles, but, he takes a lot of the ISOs and a lot of the lead blocks. So very excited about that linebacking core.
Yeah, that was fun to watch. And just to see that, you guys got a big game this week. I mean, it may not be a region game, but up there on the mountain, you guys heading to Boaz, that's a big game. It's close. Y'all are close. And it's one of those games where the kids know each other and, play 7-on-7 together. So that's a big game for y'all.
It is. Yeah, it's exciting. So every school that I've been at has their big rivalries. And when I came here, obviously you want to win region games, and we understand the importance of that. But at the same time, we kind of want to mark our territory a little bit and win all the games on the mountain, and that's Boaz and Gunnersville. So really excited about it. Our stadium is going to be packed out Friday. I'm hoping to like set records. I mean, that's what we want, because that's my goal, right? As a coach, not only do we want to win, but we want to create an atmosphere and an experience for these high school kids that'll last them not just now, but for the future and drive their future success. So really excited about it, and no doubt it'll be a good one.
Yeah, man. And I just encourage you, if you hadn't been to Albertville, go watch a game. Go this Friday night when they play Boaz. It's going to be a heated rivalry. It's a rivalry I've heard about all my life. And so go there, watch the game. It'll be fun to watch. Coach, we wish you nothing but the best this season. Continued success as you continue to move the program forward at Albertville. And I just hope that you guys get this win this Friday night and just continued success. But thank you so much for joining with us today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'll do it anytime.
Yeah, man. Stay tuned. And as we get ready to talk about some sleeper offensive players, maybe you didn't hear of to begin this season, but you should know about now. Thanks for joining with us today. Welcome back into the show. Tuesday night, I posted on Twitter. I was looking for sleeper players that maybe you didn't know about, maybe colleges didn't know about at the beginning of this season, but they're already at this midpoint, they're already having the type of season that you should know about, and they're putting up numbers that show that they can play in college. And so this next segment, we're going to be looking at those offensive sleepers, and the following one, we're going to be looking at the defensive sleepers to end our show today. So this will be something we've never done. We're going to name and go through more players than we ever have. So if you're a college coach watching this podcast, get your pen, get your paper, get your iPhone, something, some way to make some notes so you can go check these guys. Look, I'm not looking at their grades. I'm not looking at all that other stuff. That's your job. What I'm doing is I've reached out, I'm hearing from coaches. They're telling me these are guys that can play at the next level. You need to come and check them out. That's going to be on you to do that. I'm just trying to provide you that information, give you as much as I can. So and I've tried my best to watch as many of these players as I can on film. But we got a lot of players to go through. And so I'm just going to start going through them, trying to give you name, year, height and weight, kind of a little bit about them, maybe some of their stats if they send them to me. So here we go. First one up is 2022 running back Carl Ligon, I think is how you say it. He's from Autauga Academy. This is from his coach, Ray Rudolph. He's got about 10 offers right now. Some of the offers just kind of give you an idea. Sanford, UNA, South Florida. I've watched him on film. I've seen his film, a lot of his huddle, watched that. He is a legitimate playmaker. I mean, he's a really, really, really explosive running back. Definitely a guy that could help a lot of teams. And so he's definitely somebody to get on. Aliceville head coach, Grady Griffin, he sent me about some of his players. He sent me about his running back and his quarterback. And he also sent me about a defensive player we'll be talking about in the next segment. But the class of 2022 running back, Jermaine Brewer. He's from Aliceville. Huddle has him listed at 5'11", 203 pounds. I loved his film. He's fast. He hits the hole hard. He has good hands out of the backfield. So he's definitely somebody to check out. As Coach Griffin says, these two guys need to be promoted. And then the 2023 quarterback from Aliceville, Tajarian Williams. His Huddle has him listed at 6'3", 225 pounds. Man, he is big and physical. He has a cannon for an arm. I don't know if he's a 5-star prospect yet and that type of level of prospect. I'm just giving you a comp of what he looks like size-wise on the field. I mean, he looked like a Jamarcus Russell to me watching the film last night. And so definitely a guy that I think can continue to grow and develop. And he is just a tough guy to bring down, especially when he takes off running, being that big. And so those are two guys from Aliceville. We'll talk about the defender on the next segment. Now, this guy, and I'm just kind of putting a stamp on this, he may be the sleeper of the year type potential. I mean, this is exactly the type of player and the type of thing I thought was going to happen in 2021 because of COVID and because of all the issues we had of getting guys out and getting to see them play. But Coach Lyles at Douglas High School, he sent us info on a kid that hasn't played football since the 7th grade. Okay. He's a senior this year, so he's a 2022 prospect. His name is Reagan Edmondson. Reagan Edmondson. He's a wide receiver, and he plays safety for Douglas. He's 6'3", and he has great hands. He's athletic for his size. I think he's 6'3", 190, but he's really, really athletic for his size. And his coach says this about him, that he has unlimited potential. I watched his film, folks. I really believe this guy, if he hasn't played since 7th grade with what he's doing this year, I think he's got D1 Power 5 type potential, but he'll probably end up like Group of 5 just because there's not enough people that knew about him before this year. But I mean, that's not a bad place to be either. I'm just saying, I think that's where, he has Power 5 type potential. So you're watching this right now. I would pause the video and go call Douglas High School, call Coach Lyles, and start recruiting this kid. This is sleeper of the year type potential. This is why we exist. Kids like this is why AL recruiting exists. And so I hope that we get the ball rolling on his recruitment and get him going. Another kid from North Alabama, Madison Academy. He's a 2022 running back, wide receiver, Will Stokes. Man, he's got great film. Let me just kind of give you this number. Midpoint of the season, I think through 5 games, he has 1,141 all-purpose yards and 18 touchdowns, playing for a really good program, a really good school, putting up those kind of numbers. He's a little smaller, but he's definitely a guy that can play and can bring it each and every week. And he's already putting up those kind of numbers. I mean, he's the type of guy that by the end of the season could have 2,200 yards, all-purpose yards. I mean, I get it. Ultimately, you got to recruit guys that'll give you the type of numbers that'll get you wins. And these are the type of players that can do that. Vincent High School, he's 2022 running back. Jamari Lawson, he's 6 foot, 185 pounds. Now listen to this. He's got some incredible numbers too. I think this is, 5 games, 968 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, 1,161 all-purpose yards. I think his most impressive stat is this one right here. He's averaging 10.8 yards a carry, and 14% of his carries result in a touchdown. That is mind-boggling stuff. 10.8 yards a carry, 14% of his carries result in a touchdown. That is Jamari Lawson at Vincent High School. This is one I thought was an kind of a breakout type guy. And a lot of times in high school, the best athlete that probably will project as a wide receiver in college is playing quarterback for his team. I mean, we see that with ACA with Sawyer Dearman. He's playing quarterback for them. He'll be a wide receiver at the next level. But this is another situation like that. And this is from Coach Peyton Gross at Athens High School. 2022 prospect Jaden Jude. And this is what he said about him. He's getting recruited as a wide receiver, but he's our quarterback this year, and he's really, really good at both. He's 6'4", 190-pound multi-sport athlete. So far in 4 games for the Golden Eagles, he's 25-37 passing, 371 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's got 54 carries for 332 yards and 3 touchdowns, 5 catches for 52 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm like, is he throwing this to himself? I mean, that's pretty amazing. 755 total yards, 11 touchdowns. He's had 2 games with a rushing, passing, and receiving TD. That's Darren McFadden type stuff, if you remember him at Arkansas, at the University of Arkansas. And just kind of, they had a game, their first game of the season. They were down 40-20 late in the third. He accounted for 384 yards, all 6 touchdowns in the comeback win, 4 passing, 1 rushing, 1 receiving, and they won the game 41-40. I mean, so he's obviously a playmaker for the Golden Eagles. Love that kind of stuff. Coach Lloyd at the Randolph School in Huntsville, he sent information about a 2023 quarterback, Andrew Hunter. He's having a great season for them. I think he's ranked like 3rd in passing yards in the state of Alabama already at this midpoint. But he's got 1,108 yards passing, 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's rushed for 440 yards and 8 touchdowns. I mean, I've said this in episode 1 of this podcast. This is the year of the quarterback. And now we got another guy in the state of Alabama that's coming out, another quarterback that's emerging this year, 2023, Andrew Hunter. Get on this kid. Call Coach Lloyd up and start recruiting this guy. Start checking him out. Now, here's a guy, and let me say this. Some of the people that did reach out to me were not necessarily coaches, but I know sometimes coaches aren't on Twitter. They're not responding. The kids are more active. And so I had these people send stuff in, but I'm just checking them out as they send it in. I'm gonna look and listen from anybody. Okay. I mean, I want to hear from coaches and I'll quote coaches if I do, but Baker High School, this kid sent me some stuff. He's 2022 wide receiver, Javen Williams. He's 6'1", 180 pounds. He's a starter at Baker in football, baseball, and basketball. Folks, his mid-season highlights are unreal good. I mean, he's an absolute baller. And I think like the first 3 highlights are in his mid-season highlights. He's just blowing by guys. And I think he's a Division I. I definitely think he's Group of 5, if not Power 5, as some more of this stuff comes out. But man, he is a stud, a absolute stud. Tallahassee High School, 2023 offensive lineman Micah Cole. He's 6'4", 274 pounds. And 2023 quarterback Tyler Ellis, he's 6'2", 185 pounds. Heard from them. Another couple guys you need to check out. Go watch their film, pull them up on Huddle. And then this is a guy I saw on TV last week, kind of one of the games that were published. B.B. Comer High School, 2024 running back wide receiver. This guy's name is Richard Weed. He was electric when he touched the ball. I mean, absolute speed when he got his hands on the ball. I think he's an up-and-coming prospect, somebody you need to get on early because I have not seen that kind of game-breaking speed in a while. And so just watching him on TV, watching that game as it was played, you definitely need to be checking him out. Richard Weed at B.B. Comer High School. Up next, we break down some of the defensive players that are sleepers that coaches reached out to us about. And so just like the offensive players, you need to get ready to write a bunch of names down and get ready to hear from some really, really good players that are emerging in the state of Alabama. Thanks again for tuning in to the show, the AL Recruiting Podcast. This is our final segment of the day. We're going to be talking about the defensive sleepers in the state of Alabama at this midpoint through the season. Kind of just get started. We'll jump right into it. Back to Autauga Academy, 2022 defensive lineman Meldon Capers. He's another one that Coach Rudolph reached out to us about. He's got 3 Division I offers right now. Probably his biggest offer is from Tennessee State University. And so he's definitely one you need to check out. And I think the thing that Coach Ray keeps talking about is that if he was just a little bit taller, he's convinced he would have Power 5 type offers. And so you need to check this guy out and be looking at him. Aliceville High School sent on the defensive side of the ball, they sent us about Aliceville High School, and Coach Griffin on the defensive side of the ball. He let us know about a safety. He also plays wide receiver, but we kind of had him on the defensive side of the ball because that might be his better side. But he's 6'1", 180 pounds. He's not afraid to hit. He's not afraid to be physical and lay the lick if needed. Pinson Valley High School also has a safety. He's a 2023 safety. TJ Metcalf, he's 6'1", 185 pounds. Everything we saw in the film was he had great ball skills. Right now at the midpoint in the season, he has 48 tackles, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble force. So he's definitely a playmaker for Pinson Valley's defense. Here's a kid that is emerging that I kind of heard about, been kind of slowly watching him each and every game. He's had just good game after good game after good game. Is from Southside High School. And this is from his defensive coordinator, Justin Bowen. But 2022 defensive end, Ethan Light. He's definitely a guy that you need to get on your radar. You probably didn't have him on your radar, but you need to get him there. He's 6'3", 225 pounds. He's explosive. He's quick. He's a playmaker for their defense. You know, at the midpoint of the season, he's already had a just big game after big game after big game, just plays really physical, plays really fast. He's disruptive. And so he's a guy that you need to get on, and you need to start putting him on your board and recruiting him. Prattville High School coach Anthony Brown, he let us know that we need to come see. He gave us 3 guys that we need to and you need to come see. 2022 linebacker Eric Benson, 2023 linebacker Tice Minkoff, and I loved his size. He's 6'1", 230 pounds, and then 2023 linebacker Sam Payne. There's some guys that Coach Anthony Brown says you need to get down there and see these guys and check in with him, get to a practice, get to a game, watch these guys play ball. Hale County High School, 2022 athlete Jamarian Ryans. He's 6 foot, 150 pounds. He's probably a guy that would have to play offense in college just based on his size, but he reached out to me personally. In one game, he had 3 TDs, 2 pick sixes, 190 all-purpose yards. Look, I liked him. He's point guard for Hale County. He's a good player on film, dual sport athlete, just a guy you need to check out. He's a baller. I mean, you got to go watch these guys play. Now, this was sent to me by a former player at Oxford who's now playing in college. And, you know, guys that are in college, they know what it takes to get there. But he said he reached out to me about Christian Jefferson. He transferred from Oxford to Randolph County High School. He's a 2023 athlete. He's 5'10", 175 pounds. I watched a little bit of his film. Really, really good film. And I think somebody for you coaches to look at and evaluate, and you're hearing it and saying, this is a college athlete saying this guy is a true sleeper in the state of Alabama. So it's definitely, you need to hear from that and know where that source is coming from, that you need to check that out. Let's see. And then the last one I want to talk about, Pell City High School, 2023 cornerback Carlos Herring. Per his coach, per the people on Twitter that I've been reading about him, he is an absolute lockdown defender. He's already getting interest from Jacksonville State and South Alabama, but he's just a guy that you need to go out and see and watch. And I hope that you take this list, and we're going to do more of this, where we just give out a bunch of names for coaches to get, to check out, to evaluate. These are all guys that are on Twitter. Their coaches are on Twitter. You can find them. You can reach out to them. If you need that information from these players and you need how to get in touch with them, reach out to us at AL_recruiting, and we will get you their information. We'll forward you their if we have their contact information, we'll forward it to you. But if not, we'll just at least get you their Twitter account, because we want to promote these guys and promote these players. and help them to be recruited. So just reach out to us on Twitter. We'll make sure to respond to that. But thanks so much for listening to the show today. I hope that you are safe as you travel to your favorite high school football game this week. And tune in next week as we talk about more stories, more players, and more games from the state of Alabama. Have a wonderful weekend. God bless you.